It's a pleasure to be back at the Global Chinese Financial Forum. Even though we're doing it virtually this year, we look forward to meeting in person again next year when we have the opportunity. I'd very much like to thank Gilbert and Daisy and the rest of the team for setting this up. This is an outstanding opportunity. In the short period of time that we have today, what I'd like to do is give a brief overview of Regulus and our very exciting Antakori copper gold project. It's an outstanding time for those of you that are looking for opportunities to invest in the mining and exploration scene to take a look at a project like what we have. We've got a very interesting copper gold project that's being developed, and we've seen copper prices rise recently with very good reason to believe that they'll continue to be high, and we've experienced elevated copper or gold and silver prices for quite some time right now. So when we get into an environment like this, it's exactly when major mining companies are looking for opportunities to acquire projects to become new mines, and we think we'll be delivering one. The way we'll present the presentation today is by going through 10 quick reasons on why you should consider Regulus Resources and our Antakori project as an opportunity, as an investment. We'll leave some time for questions, and please feel free to contact us at any other time. We are a publicly listed company, so the appropriate disclaimers apply to this. We're listed on the TSXV in Canada, as well as the OTCQX in the US and the Lima Exchange in Peru. Reason number one to consider Regulus and the Antakori project is our team has a history of creating value. Regulus is actually the second company under our same management team. Our first company was called Antares Minerals. And as Gilbert indicated, with Antares, we had the good fortune to make the discovery of the Haquira copper gold project or copper project in southern Peru, which we drilled out and we sold to First Quantum for about $650 million in 2010. And the exact same management team, actually a little bit stronger as we've added some people to it as Regulus, we're now on to what we believe is an even more exciting discovery in the Antakori project. So our team has executed our business plan once. We learned a lot in the process, and that's positioned us well to be able to deliver again with the new Antakori project. Reason number two to take a look at us is that as management, we have significant interest in this venture. As management and directors of the company, we own over 13% of the float of the shares that are outstanding. We have a little over 100 million shares out in the company. It's important to also note that we have a major cornerstone investor in Route 1, a big hedge fund out of San Francisco that has been a long-term supporter for us. They supported us for our Antares venture. They're here supporting us on Regulus, and they're a great cornerstone investor for us. We also have coverage from three houses indicated in the lower right-hand corner, Kennecott, Paradigm, and IA. So if you want to take a look for other people's opinions about what we're working on in this project. And finally, I'd like to point out that we're in a very good cash position. We had a little over $18 million in late last year, a little over $15 million right now. And that's largely due to a recent alliance that we've announced with the Cisco Gold Royalties, which resulted in a major infusion in cash to the company. Reason number three to take a look at us is that there's a great opportunity for a significant re-rating of the company right now. In these diagrams, we list a number of peer companies that are exploration companies drilling out similar large copper or copper gold assets. We note on the left-hand side diagram that our market cap currently is only a little over $80 million US at the moment. Compared to some of our peers that are working on similar projects with higher market caps, there's an opportunity for us to increase that market cap and therefore increase our share price. Another way to take a look at a value of a company is the enterprise value or market cap adjusted per pound of copper equivalent in the ground. In the diagram in the middle portion of the slide shows that Regulus is currently valued at about 1 cent per pound of copper equivalent in situ in our resource. Whereas some of our peers that are slightly more advanced than us are more in the 2.5 cent range. And we note that the average sale price for M&A acquisitions of projects like this is closer to 4 cents. So there's plenty of room for us to increase the value of the company simply by moving the project closer to a development stage or an acquisition stage. And keep in mind, our resource is only partially drilled out. So as we continue to increase the size of this, we have an opportunity for additional value. And on the right-hand side of the diagram, we note that the copper equivalent grade of Regulus really stands out. It's one of the highest copper equivalent grades of our peer group of companies drilling out similar assets. Reason number 4 is the project has a premier location in northern Peru. We're in a stretch of the Andes. It's extremely well endowed with very large copper and gold projects, a number of existing mines around us. Peru is a major copper and gold producing country. It's a mining country, and we're in an area with a lot of other existing mines. This means we have excellent infrastructure, good labor. Most of our employees live right immediately close to the project area. Point number 5 is that there's a clear timeline to monetization or development of this project. I'll dive into this in a little bit more detail so we can get a feel for the setting of this project. What we're looking at is an oblique view with a cross section of the district where the Antakori project is located. And the Antakori project is on the right side of the diagram. On the left side of the diagram is the Tantahuatay mine. The Tantahuatay mine is a mine operated by a joint venture of Buenaventura, Southern Peru Copper, or Grupo Mexico's Peruvian sub, and a Peruvian company called Espro. And they're currently mining the, I don't have a control here to show. They're currently mining the oxide cap over a large copper gold sulfide deposit at depth. So they're producing from gold and silver from a heat bleach oxide mine on their side of the boundary. But beneath that, there's a very large copper gold sulfide deposit. And what we're seeing is the conceptual pit that was used to allow us to report the copper gold sulfide resource on our portion of the ground. The portion of the pit that is colored is our ground. The resource that we report on our ground inside this conceptual pit contains over 250 million tons of indicated resource and over 267 million tons of inferred resource at an average copper equivalent grade of about 0.7% copper. So relatively high grade for a big open pit, with about 2/3 of the metal value in copper and 1/3 of the metal value in precious metals. So a very gold-rich copper system. You can imagine that there must be similar mineralization on the neighbor side of the ground. We're not allowed to report that. We see that with a collaborative data sharing agreement we have, but we're not allowed to report it. But their most recently reported number is over 900 million tons at slightly lower grade. So these resources reported on the bottom portion of the diagram show only the sulfide resources beneath the oxide mineralization. This oxide mineralization will be exhausted in about 2025, which presents the opportunity for a brownfields transition from an oxide mine into a much larger copper gold sulfide mine with a very long mine life and very attractive economic parameters to that project. So this is effectively a brownfield situation where we own a significant portion of the deposit, what we feel is a key portion to allow the project to go forward. If we step back and look at the overall district, what we were looking at is this open pit for the oxides. We own 100% of the red claims, and we have an option to earn up to 70% of the pink claims. So our land position is on the north side of the Tantahuatay mine. As I mentioned, this oxide mine runs out in 2025 with an excellent opportunity to make a transition into a larger copper gold sulfide mine, which we believe would very logically include our mineralization within that. 7 kilometers away, Goldfields operates the Cerro Corona mine, which is a milling operation. They run out of mining, they stopped mining their ore in 2025 also. They continue to run for an additional 5 years on low-grade stockpile. But we have 2 very profitable, very attractive mines, but they have relatively short mine life. And in 2025, we believe we're presenting an opportunity for this to evolve into a much larger, longer life mine, which would be to the benefit of everyone that lives in the area. It's particularly important socially to have continued employment and benefits for the people that live in the area. So the logical thing is there'll be a consolidation of this district with our portion of the project integrated into a much larger project moving forward. It's interesting that 2025 also coincides with a well-known and well-predicted gap in copper supply coming up. I won't go into this in more detail. I believe most people are quite familiar with this story, and we're already beginning to see this supply deficit emerge, which is what's producing the higher copper prices that we're moving into. That will likely only continue to increase and strengthen copper prices as we move forward. Reason number 6 to take a look at Regulus and the Antakori project is, as I've mentioned, we already have a very significant resource in hand. There's plenty of room for this to continue to grow, but there's quite a lot to start with. This is a plan view of that conceptual pit in the black outline. The resource that we report here is only the resource that falls on our 100% owned red claims inside this pit. You can see that there must be significant mineralization on the neighbor's ground. Once again, we own 100% of the red claims, and we have an option to earn 70% of the pink claims. Reason number 7 is that when we acquired this project, we knew it had potential to be very large and very high grade on it. But as we've looked more closely at the project, perhaps an even more important aspect of the project is that it will have a very low strip ratio, and it has higher grade mineralization very close to the surface. So this is another view through the conceptual pit, once again in colors showing the grade block model for mineralization on our ground. We can see the orientation of the pit in the upper right-hand side of the diagram. And these hotter colors represent mineralization, in some cases well over 1% copper equivalent, quite close to the surface with a very low strip. The strip ratio of this conceptual pit is less than 1:1 at 0.85 to 1, which would make it one of the lower strip ratios for a large open pit copper gold mine. That means you move less waste to get to the ore, and it's more profitable to mine the ore you have. We can also see the mineralization cut in 100-meter intervals, and we see that much of the mineralization is weighted to the surface, including much of the better grades. This will become very important in the near future when we can begin to show the economic viability of the project. Point number 8 is that this project has delivered some of the more exciting copper gold intercepts in the last 3 years. This is a table of the top 20 copper intercepts from projects that are owned by junior companies that are dominantly copper, perhaps with some gold associated with them. So they're ordered by a grade thickness parameter, so copper equivalent grade by the meter interval length. To make this diagram, you need to have long runs of very good copper grades. Our top hole has over 613 meters at 0.84% copper and over a gram of gold. We would be happy with 600 meters of 0.84 copper or 600 meters of 1 gram gold, but this has both of those. So it produces a very attractive copper equivalent grade over long runs. One of the few companies that's consistently delivering better intercepts than us is SolGold's Cascabel project, but we like to point out that many of our intercepts start near surface, whereas many of their intercepts start at depth. They're more of a bulk underground opportunity. We're more of an open pit opportunity. And 3 of these intercepts, the ones with the red dots on it, have been drilled after the point in which we produced our last resource calculation. So we're continuing to hit new intercepts as we drill to the north to increase the size of the project. Speaking about the growth potential on the project, here we see the same conceptual pit showing the resource which is inside the pit, but we also see a lot of resource that's on the outside. This is not reportable resource because it falls outside the conceptual pit, but the black holes are holes that have been drilled since the time that we reported this resource, and we continue to find mineralization to the north. We anticipate when we do an updated resource later this year, in Q4 of this year, we will be able to show that this pit wall moves to the north and will have a significant expansion. The area that we're moving into drill is called Antanorte. To date, we've been able to drill up to this road along the valley bottom with our permits. We've just recently received the permits that allow us to extend into this area. We completed our first 2 holes late last year. We're currently have the drilling program suspended for the moment while we work with the local communities on the nature of the drilling program and the nature of the benefits that each community will receive from it. We've had increased interest from some of the communities in the surrounding areas that would like some additional employment and benefits, and we're working that out with them right now. We anticipate we'll be back to drilling very shortly. And for the remainder of this year, we plan to drill out approximately 12 to 15,000 meters of drilling in this area to the north, which will allow us to put out our updated resource in the latter part of the year in Q4 this year. So stay tuned for that as we move to that point. This is just a diagram showing the 2 most recently reported holes. This diagram is along the northern side of the pit, northern western side of the pit. And we can see here's the current pit that was produced from the drilling we had up to the end of 2019. All of these drill holes have been drilled since that time, with many of them reporting very encouraging drill intercepts, including hole 44, which we just announced a few weeks ago. So we'll complete this style of drilling back towards us into this diagram and then update the resource, and we anticipate this pit will be pulled down to include a lot of this mineralization as we move forward. So point number 10 is that we're a company that's really focused on the end game. We're not simply about getting a lot of tons and grades on this. We're trying to develop and de-risk a project that will be put into a position where it can be developed into a major mine. The Antakori project has a number of benefits to it, that it's located effectively in a brownfield setting, where it's very likely that an expansion of an existing oxide mine and transition into a much larger, longer life copper gold sulfide project will involve our mineralization. We have a very key point of it. So it's not, as I mentioned, it's not simply about getting grades and tons. You have to focus on de-risking and setting the stage to be able to develop this as a major mine. So we're very actively involved in long-term community and environmental projects. We're focusing on deposits that are large deposits with potential for what we refer to as a multi-generational mine life. The type of project that will last for decades, or type of mine that will last for decades and can provide sustained benefits for a long period of time to the communities. And even though our intent is not to be the actual miner of the project, we envision that we drill the project out, we de-risk the project, and we set the stage for a major mining company to acquire it from us. We pride ourselves in the technical quality of the work that we do. That's very critical to produce a project that's de-risked and attractive to a major company to move forward. So just in summary, we have a very large project. It's clearly what's referred to by the majors as a tier 1 asset in the making. We have a proven strategy that we've executed successfully once in our predecessor company, and we're very excited to be well on our way to what we think will be a second success. And we have quality partners in all senses, including the communities that we work with in the area, the neighbors next door to us, and a number of our major investors. So I hope that's provided a quick look at who we are and the opportunity that we have. Welcome any questions, and please visit our website or contact us directly if you have any other questions about this exciting copper gold project we have in Peru. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. So we got a couple of questions for you here. Tom Lin, for his first one, how's the COVID in Peru, and has that affected your exploration and operations there?
COVID in Peru is certainly challenging, as it is in much of the world. When COVID first hit in March, Peru was very quick to shut the country down, almost a total shutdown. It meant we had to suspend our activities during that period of time and focus on the health of our employees. By mid-year, we were able to, as an essential industry, we were able to begin our work, and we started our drilling program in October, cautiously, to make sure that we didn't impact the communities around us or put our employees in jeopardy. Recently, Peru is experiencing a second wave, like many parts of the world. So it's been in the news in the last few weeks that Peru, much of Peru, is in a pretty serious shutdown right now. That really affects the personal or civil life of people. So it's meant to keep people from getting together on the beach in the summer and creating social situations which can cause a spread. But they're very intentionally preserving the ability for key industries to move forward. They don't want to kill the economy. It's the same challenge most countries face. So as a key industry, we're allowed to cautiously work under COVID protocols. They're fairly restrictive, but it keeps everyone safe as we move forward. Very similar to, say, Ontario's. Ontario's almost in the same situation.
Sure. One last question here. How will Regulus get a better EV per pound compared to its peers? Question from Simon.
Great question on this, and one that we work on quite a lot. A lot of that is through better recognition of what the opportunity is in the market. It's as effectively as we increase our market cap, it moves forward. So it's a combination of people making investors more aware of what we have. That's a little bit of a challenge because this is a complex project. We own a portion of it, the neighbors own a portion of it. It's not as simple as a 100% project that we can show that pathway on. But we're working so that people can see that opportunity, and I think you'll see some important announcements this year that'll allow people to see that potential a little more clearly. The other aspect of it is de-risking the project. Is in an early stage, when you're just at resource definition, you tend to have a lower valuation. As you move the project closer to preliminary economic evaluations or pre-feas type work, you typically climb up the scale on that valuation per pound of copper in the ground. So it's advancing and de-risking the project at the same time as making the investing public more aware of what it is that we have.
Thank you, John, for your update to the audience today.
Thank you very much, Gilbert. Look forward to keeping in touch with you over the next year. Should be a lot of fun this year.